What's up, guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Devontae Kelly, and I'm a third grade teacher in the Middle Tennessee area. If you've seen my last video, you know it's been a minute. I've not been on for about 3 or 4-ish months now, which you know how I do. Once the school year starts, I get super immersed in it, and I forget to pick up the camera. But I'm here today because I have something super exciting to share with you guys. It is not finished. I actually literally just started with it, but if you see right here, you're gonna be like, what the heck is this? Well, this is a terrarium cage. And if you're wondering, Devontae, why do you have a terrarium cage? You are at the right spot, because we have been learning all about frogs. We have our ELA unit, that is 9 weeks of frogs. We also have a science unit that's all about adaptations and things of that sort. And so we've been learning all about frogs, their different body parts, how they have physical and behavioral adaptations. We have dissected fake frogs, but anatomy is still the same. We dissected frogs. We've learned about tadpoles, things of that sort. And so I was like, wouldn't it be really cool if we had like actual live frogs in our classroom? And so I wrote a grant that is fully funded for this terrarium and the frogs and all that stuff. And I got it back about a month ago, or on Halloween, actually. Halloween Day, I found out that I got the grant. And so I ordered a bunch of stuff. This is only part one. I have to actually set the terrarium up. Then I need to do my second round of buying, which will be all the plants that'll go inside of it. Let those plants acclimate to the terrarium, and then I have to do my third round, which will be buying the actual frogs for it. So we are only at part one so far. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Just a heads up, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. All I'm doing is watching YouTube videos and recreating that. But I have the basic knowledge of what I need to do. I just don't know like how I want it to look at the end. So I'm just gonna be putting stuff together, seeing if it works. So far, the first thing I did, the reason why it's on its side right here is because I actually got some sealant and went around the edges of the bottom and the sides where there will be water, just to make sure when the water goes in their natural terrarium that it won't leak out. And so I did that this morning about 4 or 5 hours ago. 4 or 5 hours, you're right. I did that about 3-ish hours ago. It is fully dried. It is all good to go. And so now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be setting up some of the inside things that I need for my terrarium before I can actually start putting it together. So one thing that I'm going to have is I am going to have a waterfall system in my terrarium. And the reason for that is because I want to be able to have the water moving throughout the terrarium, so that way there's not any stagnant water. That will help with bacteria growth, not having bacteria grow in there, obviously. And so having that water pump at the bottom where the drainage layer is will help pull that water up and out. And so that constant flow of water will help keep water from being stagnant. And so that's part one. And then I also have this little USB fan right here, and that is for this terrarium to have really great quality of airflow. Another thing that we want to make sure is that there's air flowing throughout. And so I'm going to be building a small ventilation system using this USB fan. So I will have the USB fan at the top, and I will be literally making some vents out of this to have airflow at the top and bottom of the terrarium, so that way we can also have constant airflow as well as constant water flow throughout that. And then once I have that done and that set, then I can go ahead and get into the most tedious part, which would be making the landscape and hardscape. So putting the back, having an area back here that is rock-like, as well as adding different like branches and stuff for the frogs to climb on. I also have these little cork pieces. I have some more little wood pieces right here for them. And then I also have this little water basin right here. The type of frog that I'm planning on getting, they are climbing frogs, so I will be getting some type of tree frog. But they do need some type of water pond basin type of area. I don't want to have a huge pond area in here just because these are climbing frogs, they're not really good at swimming, and so I don't want them to, get in water too deep. So I will have this set in here as well, just so that way they have a little place to get wet if they need to and then hop out when they can. So that's a lot of talking. I gave you a lot of information. I am going to stop talking. I'm going to start building some of this stuff because I really need to go home. But I do want to get this part done today. So I'm going to, like I said, be quiet. I'm going to start building some of this stuff and we'll see what happens over the course of the next hour.
All right, guys, so right here, what you see me doing is making the spot where my water fountain will go. I measured out how big the pump was, its length and width, and then I made a box slightly bigger than that so that way my hand can get down in there and it's easy for me to get the water pump in and out. At the bottom right here, I am cutting out part of the board and I am putting a mesh over the top of it so that way water is able to easily get through into the pump, but I'm not getting any of like the drainage layer, any rocks, any soil or anything of that sort that could hurt or damage the pump. And then I am going to be putting that into the tank in the back right corner.
All right, guys, so it has about been an hour-ish later. I had this fan on just because I was trying to get this silicone in here to cure. So I could go ahead and start putting some expanding foam in here to start building my backdrop. But I think I do want to set it up. I'm going to set this up so that way you guys can see what I've done so far. And so that way you can see what this past hour I've been doing and then what I'm about to do. So let me set you guys down for a second. Awesome. All right, I got it. So here is what I've done so far. Let me turn you around. Okay, so I know you're probably looking at this like this looks like a hot mess. And it does look like a hot mess because I don't know how to use a caulk gun. Like, I know what it is, I know what it looks like, but doing it, I don't know. So you're gonna see where I started. Like, I actually cut the tip of the caulk too thin. And so it was just like super small, and so I had to recut it, reapply, and then as I was going, I got a little bit better at it, as you maybe, I don't know. I say I got better. You might say something different. But what I essentially have right here are two different systems I'm going to be having. So this first system right here was the first thing I put. Your second structure right here is for my ventilation system. This is for the frogs and the humidity and for the plants as well. So I think I showed you guys earlier, I did have this little USB fan right here that will simply just go down in here like so. There we go. And I actually have a little, I take this out just so I can show you, but it actually has some little steps right here so that way it doesn't go all the way down. But I have this here so that way this sits inside. This will be turned on so that way it has water going through, and basically, not water, air, and basically that air will go straight down into this compartment here and then be blowing out here and here on those two sides of the vents. And you can see those two vents. There's one right here. There's wire mesh that's on top of it here, and then wire mesh on top here, so that way those frogs aren't able to get inside of there. So that way we have air circulating throughout the terrarium. Now, I also am not super worried about my caulk job on here just because I am about to put expanding foam in here. And this expanding foam is what's going to help make the backdrop look rocky, look terrestrial, so that way it looks like a natural habitat for the frogs. So I'm not super concerned about the job I did with this so far because it's going to get covered up. So in just a second, I'm going to start putting the caulk around the back of the terrarium. So what I will do is from about here up, I'm going to put some expanding foam. I will be covering these two things right here And I will be covering everything except for these two vents. I'll leave a spot around these two vents so that way air will be able to be pushed out throughout the terrarium. But everything else will be covered up with that expanding foam. So you won't be seeing much of these two structures when looking at it head on. And so that's why I'm not super worried about it looking the way it looks, because from here, it'll be covered with biodrain. From here to about here, it'll be covered with substrate and soil. And then from here up will be covered with the expanding foam. So everything will be covered. I'm about to go ahead and get that done now, and then I will let that cure over the next 2 days so that way I can start the next process that I need, which will be cutting off some of the expanding foam so that way I don't have that shiny layer on there, so I can start adding in my soil and plants and things of that sort. So let's go ahead and get this expanding foam started. All right, guys, so you just saw me put that those 2 cans of expanding foam into my terrarium to make my backdrop. I'm actually super impressed with how well I did. I'm going to give it about 2 days to cure. You could actually see the outside because I have so much airflow coming into the room with this big window open. I also have this fan down here that I'm going to turn on when I leave as well. So the outside is already starting to cure. I actually got my finger and some other things stuck in here. But I want to make sure that the inside of it's cured, because what I have to do once this is fully cured, I'm going to have to cut off the shiny parts of the expanding foam so that way I can get some of the plants and moss and things like that to stick to the expanding foam. So I would hate to cut into that and then it still be super sticky. So I'm going to give it 2 days. I won't leave this window open just because obviously safety, but I will have that big fan going over the next 2 days just so that way it's able to get airflow and cure and, you know, all that fun stuff. So I'm going to have that done. Here's what it looks like if you were kind of looking at it straight on. So this is the backdrop all right here. You can not actually see the 2 fans super well, but one vent is right here, right above my finger. And then the other one is actually right up under this wood feature right here. And what I did with that wood feature is I'm actually going to incorporate that as part of my waterfall. So as you can see there, well, you might not be able to see it, but there's a little hole right here that my tubing is going to go through to get to my pump, and then that tube will sit right here and water will actually come down here, and hopefully it'll go 2 ways. One way it'll go this way and down into the terrarium, and then another one to go, maybe if it pulls, going this way, and over here is where I plan on having the pool of water for the frogs in case they need that. So this is what it's looking like. Again, I'm super excited with how it turned out so far. I am going to leave this like it is for right now. I'll come back on Monday or Tuesday and see how it is doing. And then if it is fully cured, I will start cutting this apart, and then I will put in the drainage layer, the soil, all that stuff. I'll set it up back over here where I originally will have it. And then after that, I will start ordering plants and things for it. So I'm super excited. Unfortunately, I won't be able to get the plants until at least 2 weeks from now, which will be the beginning of December. And that's just because I got this with grant money. The school, I have to go through the school to get the things. I have to have the order approved. Obviously, with it being Thanksgiving break, won't be getting that, but that's okay. That I won't be getting anytime soon because, again, I'm in no rush for it. I want to make sure that I'm doing the best that I can with this and making sure that it's the best that I can make it for these frogs. So I am going to stop right here for today. Not the end of the video, but I'll catch you later on this week to show more progress of what's happening with this terrarium. What's up, guys? It is now Sunday. I'm here the very next day just to start part 2 of what I need to do with this frog terrarium. Let me cut off this fan right here. Today I have another big job. The big job for today is to put in the water for the tank just to ensure that it does not leak any water at the bottom. So yesterday I did go through and I sealed as best I can all around the bottom, all around the top right here, and on the 4 corners, the 4 sides right there, to ensure with a sealant, just to ensure that water doesn't get through. I'm going to be filling this up to about here today. Actually, you can't see that. It's about here today, just to make sure that water does not leak out. And I'll leave it in there for about 3 or 4 hours. I know some places say to do it for 24 hours. I feel like if it's not leaking in 3 or 4 hours, then you should be pretty good. But that's just me. Maybe my thinking is flawed, and it might be because, this is my first time doing something like this. So that's one job I'm going to be doing today, just to make sure that there are no leaks. The second thing I need to do is, you guys saw that background with the expanding foam and how shiny it is. I actually need to cut that shiny part off and get that sub layer showing, because when I am putting on the soil and things on the background, it actually will not stick to that shiny part of the expanding foam. And so I'm going to actually have to cut that out piece by piece to show that underlayer, and then be able to use silicone to get that on there. So that's what I'll be doing for today. I am going to go ahead and put you guys down. I'm going to move some stuff off this back cabinet because I will be putting the terrarium on the cabinet to see if it leaks off of there. And while that's sitting, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna multitask and try to start cutting some of this off to make sure that I am showing all of the not shiny parts of this expanding foam. So let's put you down and get started. All right, so that just took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. But as you guys saw, I was able to cut the majority of the shiny spots of the expanding foam. Looking at it, I still have a couple of spots that I can hit up, just because I wasn't able to get in at the right angle to get it. But now that I have siphoned out all the water, which, oh my gosh, that took like 30 minutes to get all that water out. One thing I would do differently if I were to do this again would be to get an enclosure that has a drain at the bottom. That would just make it so much easier to get the water out. But you live and you learn. But now that I got that water out and I've got it mostly dry, there are a couple of drops here and there, but all of the water is basically out of this tank. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit up those fine spots, just making sure that I get as much of the shiny parts of the expanding foam out of the way. I'm going to cover it bit by bit with silicone, and then I'm going to be throwing some of the coconut husk, the coconut fiber, onto the background, and it looks like this. It actually expands in water. I don't think that I want to get it wet. I'm just going to put it on just like that, just because I'm not really using this. Usually people use this as like part of their substrate, part of their soil. I'm not using it for that. I might use part of it, but majority of it I just want to use for the background, just to give it that natural look. And so I'm going to cover it with silicone piece by piece, and then I'm going to cover that silicone with this, so that way it gets dried on there. In case anybody was wondering, the silicone that I'm using is an aquarium silicone. So it says on the top, like, great use for aquariums, can use with different terrariums, safe with reptiles, safe with amphibians, safe with fish. So no worries about that. Now, it does give off a weirdish smell, but I'm not going to worry about it because, like I said, it's November now. I'm not getting these frogs until like February at the earliest, because I want to give the plants proper time to grow roots and settle into this ecosystem. So it'll be a couple of months before these frogs get in here. So hopefully, like, by the time the frogs get here, like, all that stuff would have aired out, dried, all that good stuff, and so there won't be any like weird smells with it. But what I'm going to do now is go ahead and get some gloves on, get this silicone ready to go, and then I will start that process of putting on the cocoa husk. All right, guys, what's up? I am back. It is, I don't know what day it is, but it's after Thanksgiving. I am here in my classroom one last time before I am back to school. And I wanted to show you the end results of the tank, and it looks amazing so far. Now, remember, there aren't any plants in there just yet. I'll be getting those in the next couple of weeks. But I think so far it looks really good. So I'm going to give you a quick peek into what everything looks like. All right, y'all, so here she is so far. Up at the top, you're gonna notice I have a couple of things up here just to let you know what everything is. So right here, I have an aquarium light, which I know this is not an aquarium, this is a terrarium, but what this light does is it mimics a 24-hour day cycle. So at certain points of the day, this will change on how the sun would look at certain times of day. And so I think that's really nice to have. So that way it artificially, mimics how a day cycle would go for the frogs. This next one right here is another light, but this one is a UVA, UVB light. It's off right now, but what this will do is it'll give the frogs the UVA and UVB rays that it needs to help it survive. This does not do that, so this is very essential for that, so that way it keeps them nice and healthy. This right here is a heat lamp. It keeps the heat lamp at certain temperatures during the daytime and nighttime. Right now I have daytime set at 78 and then nighttime I think I have set at 72. There is a little probe right back here that I have not directly under the heat lamp, but very adjacent to it, just so that way it can keep track of what the temperature is. And then hanging right here, it shows what the temperature is. So right now it is blinking at 72. You'll also see on there, we have the time that it is, we have the power level, it's at 100% power right now, and then that bottom number 78, that's what the set temperature is. So it's now moved up to 73. So obviously the heat lamp is on, it is working. Also in here, you're gonna see a little circle right here and a circle right here. These are hydrometers, I think that's how you pronounce it, hydrometers, but these tell the temperature as well as the humidity in the tank at a certain time. So right now, this side of the tank is 70.7 degrees Fahrenheit with a humidity of 85 degrees because the water just went off. On this side, it is 73.5 degrees, so very, very close to what this probe has up here. And then on this side of the tank, it has a humidity of 76, obviously because the heat lamp is sitting on this side of the tank. Here are the little spray nozzles for when I have it spray water. This will be for the plants as well as for the frogs. Up here also is the pump that pushes water throughout the misting system. On here, you're gonna see two numbers. This number is the duration mode. That's how long it'll spray for. So it'll spray for 15 seconds. The number on the right is how many hours it waits between each spray. So it'll spray for 15 seconds and then it'll wait 8 hours for it to spray again. And then over here, I have a makeshift bottle that I put water in that will pull water from the little filter down there. It'll pull it up through the tube. It'll send it into the pump. It'll come out and into the tank and spray into the tank. And then obviously right here we have our little waterfall with our little pond. We have our makeshift tree right here. You're gonna notice some white stuff right here. No worries about that. That is tissue paper and liquid glue, so that way it keeps these together. Also have some here and here, so that way it kind of keeps it in place. No worries about that because that will get covered in moss and plants, so won't be able to see that, won't be able to get to that. But yeah, this is the tank. So far, I am super, super excited for the next step. And yeah, here it is. All right, guys. So that's it for part one. We are completely done with that. Next step, we are getting plants. We're going to be planting those in the terrarium. We'll also be putting some little critters in there as well, some decomposers, also the food source for our frogs. And so I'm super excited for part two. I hope to catch you guys in the next video. See ya.